Right now, getting clean means turning on a hot shower, grabbing a bottle of body wash, and being done in 5 minutes. That entire routine, hot running water on demand, is incredibly recent. For most of human history, there was no soap as we know it, deodorant didn't exist, and people got creative. And when I say creative, I mean things you are genuinely not ready for. Let's start in ancient Egypt, where the sun and the desert air made oiling your skin a daily necessity, not a luxury. Wealthy Egyptians rubbed themselves head to toe in oils perfumed with frankincense and myrrh. Both imported and expensive, so literally how you smelled signaled how rich you were. Poorer Egyptians used the cheaper, locally available castor oil instead. For actual cleaning, they didn't have soap. They used natron, a natural mineral salt, mixed with oil as an abrasive scrub. And for body odor specifically, Egyptians rolled little balls of scented dough and incense paste and tucked them directly under their arms. That is, functionally, the world's first deodorant stick, except it was a ball of bread. The Romans took bathing and turned it into a full social event. By the height of the empire, going to the public baths, the Thermae, every single day was completely normal, for men who could afford it anyway. But they didn't use soap either. Instead, they covered themselves in olive oil and scraped it off, along with the sweat and dirt underneath, using a curved metal tool called a strigil. Public restrooms were even weirder. Instead of toilet paper, there was one shared sponge on a stick, rinsed in a trough of vinegar water for everyone to use. And here's the part that sounds like an urban legend, but is actually confirmed by archaeology. Romans used stale urine, collected from public street jars, to clean and whiten their togas. It worked because urine breaks down into ammonia. The Emperor Vespasian was so serious about this trade, he put an actual tax on collecting urine. When his son complained it was disgusting money, Vespasian reportedly held up a coin and said, "Money doesn't smell." That's a real historical anecdote, not a joke someone made up later. Now you've probably heard that medieval Europeans never bathed. That's mostly a myth. Public bathhouses were common and cheap across medieval towns. Monks were required by their own religious rules to bathe several times a month, and having a private tub at home was a real status symbol for nobles. Bathing really did decline, but much later than people think, and for a specific reason. After the Black Death wiped out as much as half of Europe's population, doctors developed a theory that hot water opened your skin's pores and let the plague straight in. So for a while, avoiding the bath wasn't laziness, it was medical advice. Then there's Versailles, the palace of Louis XIV, which everyone assumes was the smelliest place in history because nobody bathed back then. Except Louis XIV had 2 personal bathtubs and bathed regularly. The real problem at Versailles wasn't people skipping baths, it was that the palace housed up to 5,000 people with barely any working toilets, so courtiers used chamber pots and emptied them straight into the hallways and gardens. Perfume at Versailles wasn't covering up unwashed bodies, it was covering up a building with a genuine sewage problem. So when did we actually get modern hygiene? In 1879, a Procter & Gamble factory accidentally whipped too much air into a batch of soap, and the whole batch floated. They rebranded it Ivory soap, sold it on the fact that it floats, and mass-market bar soap took off from there. Deodorant came next. In 1888, a product called Mum became the first trademarked commercial deodorant, a zinc oxide paste you rub directly under your arms. Underarm dough balls to a zinc paste in a tin. Progress. Here's the actual twist, though. Some of the grossest hygiene stories you've heard about history aren't history at all. The legend that Queen Isabella of Castile refused to bathe or change her clothes for months during a siege. The word people used to describe that resulting color wasn't even recorded until about 100 years later, which means the story was invented after the fact. And the famous quote that Queen Elizabeth I bathed once a month, whether she needed it or not. Historians can't trace that quote back further than a magazine article from 1927, centuries after she died. It's fake, so the biggest gross hygiene stories in history are themselves history's biggest fakes. So, would you rather spend a day at a Roman bathhouse or one night in a Versailles hallway? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more of history's strangest, most disgusting corners explained, subscribe. because this is exactly the kind of thing I dig up every week.